Okay, good afternoon, good morning, or good evening, wherever you're watching us from. And we are starting our panel discussion. I'm going to introduce the speakers, or rather, the speakers are going to introduce themselves. And while we are doing that, could you please write in the chat whether you can hear us well enough and where you're watching us from? Because people from many countries registered. We have about 2,000 registrations, and I hope that we'll have some very interesting time. Let me introduce myself because I'm going to be doing some of the talking as a moderator. So if anything goes wrong, the blame is all on me. I will be the moderator of the discussion. My name is Alexey Konobeiev. I work as an academic director at Skyeng Online School and Skyeng University, and also as the editor-in-chief at Title Publishers, which is Russia's only specialized ALT publishing house. And now on to the panel speakers.
Well, thank you very much, Alexey. I'm Andre Hedlund. I'm very excited to be here today. And this is a particularly interesting topic for me. And I come from a background of English language teaching. I've done a lot of things related to proficiency examinations. Now I'm focused on bilingual programs in Brazil. I work with psychology and neuroscience. I have a master's degree in psychology of education. I'm part of the Brastiço committee here in Brazil, so I'm always part of events and talks and blog posts and everything. And also I've tried to, implement some project-based learning, ideas into my own practice. So it's really great to be here, and I can't wait to start talking about this wonderful topic.
Oh, thank you so much for the introduction. Andre is speaking from Brazil, so we have quite an international community. And while we are going to introduce the next speaker, I was going to read some of the countries that people are watching us from. So we have Judy Trevithick from Cape Town in South Africa. We have a person listening to us from Manila in Philippines. We have somebody from Armenia. Armenia is Piran. We have people from the Buryat Republic of the Russian Federation. It is late evening in Buryatia, and that's a wonderful, wonderful republic. We have people from Saratov, we have people from Moscow. We have Nikki Torod from Hastings in England. We have Paulina from Belgium. We have people from Bosnia. We have people from Bulgaria. We have people from Croatia. We have people from Ukraine. We have people from the USA, which is really great. We have people from Belarus, and the information keeps coming. And I was just going to say that whatever you write in the chat, your questions, your comments, I'm going to pass them on to our speakers. And our next speaker is Heather Hanssen.
Thank you so much, Alexey. Wow, what a list of countries. That's amazing. Hello, world. We're so happy to have you here with us today, and I'm so excited about the discussion that we're going to have. My name is Heather Hanssen. I am originally from the USA. I have been based in Singapore for over 10 years. I've also lived in Denmark about 8 years, and I am a global communication consultant. I work primarily with multinational companies to help their leaders and help everyone throughout the organization to really be unmuted, right? Instead of hiding on mute and off camera, to speak consciously, confidently, and with greater connection across the organization. So today when I'm sharing, I'm coming from that perspective of how I have been operating inside corporations in their corporate training programs and consulting with them. So I'm really happy to be here. And thanks so much, Alexey, for the opportunity.
Okay, thank you very much. And we have more people joining us. There are people from Italy. There are more people from Belarus. There are people from Kazakhstan, which is yet another country that has not been mentioned before. So our international community is growing. And our next speaker will certainly appeal to a lot of people who are watching us from St. Petersburg, because Antoine is currently positioned in St. Petersburg.
Absolutely. Thank you to everyone. It's really exciting to see such, as Heather said, to see the whole world coming together today. I am Belgian, but I consider myself more a citizen of the world. And it's just great to have this event like this, where we're all together. We've got so many different time zones. So my name is Antoine Marcq. I teach English. I run a language center, private language center in St. Petersburg, Russia. And now I'm focused on teacher training online and providing supplementary materials. Tom Wiseman and I run a website called Resource Education, and we provide supplementary materials to teachers of English all over the world.
Okay, thank you very much, Antoine. And I'd like to extend our greetings to a person who is watching us from Honduras. That's Carlos Membreo. And on to our next speaker, who, very much like Heather and most of us, is joining together several continents at the same time.
Hello, everyone. This is Ron Morrain coming to you from beautiful Germany, still in Europe. And a little bit about myself. I think maybe a lot of you might know me already from my connection on social media, where I connect with over 3 million people every week. And I have to say that social media has changed a lot in my life. But I started as an academic and living here in Germany. I've been in academia now for over 30 years. So I'll be bringing that perspective into our conversation today. I am the founder of the Language Learning Centers Europe, which we now have one office in Germany, and we used to have 3, but of course, with COVID, things have changed. And that will be, the topic of our discussion today, how things have changed. I am also an instructional coach for a company called Syntax Solutions in the Netherlands, and I'm currently employed as a lecturing professor and work in the personnel department for a major German university. We have over 50,000 students, and I am responsible for the planning, implementation, and assessment of our staff training program there at the university, especially EMI. And I think, a lot of you might know me from just being a guest speaker at workshops around the world, and which I miss as well. And that's another thing that we'll be talking about. So thank you, Sky University. So nice to see so many people, faces that I know here in the panel. And I look forward to an interesting discussion with great questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Ron. And I would like to say that we are currently joined by people from more countries. We have several representatives from universities in India and from people who are just from India without stating their affiliation. And there are a lot of people from cities all over Russia across all the huge number of time zones that Russia stretch along with across. And today we're going to discuss lessons from the previous year, because a lot of things happened to change the way we teach and to change the way we learn. Because of the lockdowns and coronavirus and so many other things, people had to be immersed in online education and in blended learning. And that raises a lot of questions. And we're here today to share our experiences, to share our views, and to learn about your views on these things. And the first question today is this. Where would you say is online continuous professional development going to? What is happening now that so much information is easily accessible and that there seems to be a huge number of resources available?
Well, I suppose I can get started on this one because I just wanted to mention something that caught my attention when we were working together, sharing a document to kind of go through the questions. And I think it was Antoine who wrote 1,001 webinars later. And then we're thinking about online lessons today. And I think that kind of captures the moment. We had so many options online. People were, and not just local options of, something that we would normally do face-to-face, but we had international speakers from different universities offering online and free resources and webinars. And I think that CPD has shifted in that sense, because I think, well, if you compare to what you used to do before the pandemic started, you would probably save some money to travel, to go to face-to-face conferences, to get to know people, to meet them and talk about their work. Nowadays, I feel like we're not really worried so much about that. And as long as we're in the pandemic and we're hoping for things to get better, which means that we do have some benefits, but we do have the downside of it as well. like not being able to exchange with people personally, that's something that makes a difference. I think I feel like I haven't been connecting with people on the same level I used to, and that definitely has an impact on my CPD in terms of motivation. For example, it's really nice to be there in the same room as someone you admire who has done something incredible, who adds to your profession. But on the other hand, we have the possibility of accessing things we would never do before. So this is an illustration of what CPD can be like. You know, we have people from Brazil, Russia, from, you know, Singapore, from Germany, from everywhere, all over the world, connecting with us, listening to us, and learning from us, and we're learning from them as well. And I feel that that's very positive. So we just have to make sure that we go back to the new normal as soon as possible, so that we can hug each other, see each other, be there for each other. And that's something I really miss.
Okay, thank you so much for so much for this comment. But here's a question that I'd like to ask.
Can I jump in very quickly to say that the 1001 webinars later was Ron's idea? I did type it, but it was someone.
Yes.
Well, that's what I felt like. It was, my God, where is this? What happened? What just happened? You know, when you think about, you know, what happened in 1 year, and I really felt that I had been to 1001 webinars, and I probably gave 999 of them. That's what I felt like. You know, that's how we kind of started with that. But, you know, I just want to jump in on what Andre said. You know, because the question is, where is it going? You know, where's CB? Where have we been? I think that definitely what we have seen is that, you know, that exchange of information, it was so great, and so many people sharing their experience, you know, in education. This is also wonderful. But it also changed the way, you know, we attend conferences. We no longer have to pack our bags, get on a plane, and you know, get there. You know, so, you know, we have a much more cost-effective way of, you know, participating in a conference. But it also changes the way international conferences, you know, are taking place. We can take part in more conferences, we are able to expand our networks, as Andre said, you know, from you know, doing this, and we get to meet so many people, make great contacts. But the key word that Andre really kind of brought up there was learning, you know. And I think what, you know, really has been exposed here is not only how we learn, but what we're learning in CPD. This is also very important that, you know, I think it will come later on in our discussion.
Oh yeah, but there is one thing that you mentioned, and I think that I'm not alone when I say that I feel that sometimes I'm flooded with free webinars and live streams and a lot of information. And the problem is that this seems to be the new normal, and I, for one, miss a lot of offline conferences where you can get together with the people, when you can talk in the breaks, when you can ask some questions which you probably wouldn't have time to ask during the webinar. So would you say that webinars are really a good replacement for face-to-face CPD in education? Or how would you say the year 2021 is going to change CPD?
Heather?
I'll hop in here. Okay, I'll hop in. I mean, I don't think that it's an either or. You know, I think that we're going to have both. And I think that the next normal, what we're moving into very quickly, especially out here in Southeast Asia, is we're already starting with hybrid programs. So that will be the wave of the future. And that requires an entirely new skill set than what we've already learned in the past year for virtual. So if you thought you were on a wild ride, learning how to run webinars, learning how to talk to the camera, it's going to get even wilder as we move into hybrid events. And I think we're going to see a lot of that happening, where we'll have a small community, local community who are able to join a conference, and the rest of us beaming in from the rest of the world. I mean, just look at today. This is such a great example of how a webinar setup can be so beneficial, and it can expand our reach. It can bring us together in a different way. I really don't see these as better or worse. Of course, I miss the hugs. Of course, I miss, you know, seeing Ron in person. But it's still, this connection is different. And in some ways, and what I've seen with my clients as well, they're saying that, you know, having more virtual meetings, they're connecting in a different, almost deeper way. When you suddenly can see into someone's living room and their kids run through the frame while they're working from home, and I'm giving a webinar and my cat jumps back here and on top of my bookcase, right in the middle of everything. This brings authenticity to the experience. It brings a different kind of connection and a different kind of fun that adds to the learning. So I don't like to look at them as an either or, and I don't think there will be an either or anymore. It's going to be both moving forward, and we're going to add on a lot of hybrid learning as well. So we have a long way to go in learning the skill sets we need to be successful in this new world as teachers, trainers, consultants, coaches. So that's what I would just add there.
Heather, I'd like to ask you, do you see them that, you know, we're still going to have, you know, like you said, hybrid, you know, that's where we're moving to. I think we're actually there already in a way.
Yeah, and we definitely are out here.
But isn't it, would you say that we could give that a name, like more boutique conferences, where they're really just, there's still conferences, they use the hybrid model, but there would be more boutique, more concentrated on more but less, you know, there's less people.
I'd love to see that. Like, you mean maybe more like an IATEFL B-SIG or a PRON-SIG, you know, like the SIGs that they're smaller conferences, more intimate. I think those will be more successful hybrid events, to be honest, because I don't think people are quite there with managing the technology and everything else. So I would love to see something like that start happening. I think it's definitely a possibility. I think we're going to see it across the board. And a lot of the corporations are already doing this. They're doing their regional meetings as hybrid events. Wherever is not in lockdown can be in a room together. Wherever is in lockdown is beamed in online. It's already happening, and we're going to keep moving that way.
I'd like to add that it's actually already going to happen. I can't help from plugging IATEFL B-SIG. We will be doing this actually at the end of the month, and I will be doing the first workshop, because, you know, there is a difference between a webinar and a workshop, and this is where we got lost in all of these 1001 webinars, is that we couldn't define anymore. People were lost at what is really a webinar and what is a workshop. Yeah, and this is what, you know, we still need to make that distinction in this new normal that we find ourselves in, and working towards that boutique kind of conference. So yeah, well, and Antoine, what are you going to add there?
Unmuting myself. I would say 2020 was a bit specific. Unfortunately, there was kind of a panic that shouldn't have happened. We should have been ready for online learning, for online teaching and all that. And I think those 1001 webinars, if we're going to call them like that, all these free things, there was an outpour of us, people trying to help each other. The webinars, a lot of the first webinars, those free first webinars I saw happening were mainly basically to tell other teachers how to use Zoom, how to use basic tools to be able to teach online. Because there was the panic because of the pandemic, it was all of a sudden, and there was an outpour of that. Tom and I at Resource Education, what we did for as long as we could, we just provided all our materials. The website is subscription based, but it was free for something like 2-3 months at the beginning, because we participated in this community feeling that everybody saw online. And I think 2021 now, as you said, Ron, we're getting back to more methodology. We're going to have more concrete workshops, webinars that are not going to be aimed at just, hey, how do I teach online now, please, tomorrow? So I think,
are you saying that we're
2020?
Are you saying that we're past the Band-Aid solution? That we've gone beyond the Band-Aid solution now?
Hopefully, yes.
Okay, and here's a question from one of our listeners. It is a question from Nela Dishlovaya, and the question is, wouldn't you say that virtual events aren't as engaging as live events for the audience? And can you please comment on that? So what is your opinion? Are virtual events as engaging, or are they not as engaging for the audience?
Heather.
That's a hard one, Alexey, if I may, from a cognitive perspective, I think we've been hearing a lot about Zoom fatigue and too much time on the screen and things like that. I feel like there are definitely things we can do in-person CPD workshops and lectures that can be very engaging, like moving around and connecting with people. And I really feel that it depends on how you deliver this event. So right now we have a panel discussion. I think it's very engaging, but it depends on how many webinars people have watched before us, and that's the thing that we have in-person events, that even if you had a lot of webinars before, it just connecting with a human being and being there physically, that changes things. It becomes more engaging. So I'm not sure. It really depends on the content. It depends on the speakers. It depends on the energy.
Andre, this is a webinar, not a workshop.
Exactly. Yes.
This is a webinar.
So again, yes, webinars. Again, it's really hard to tell because it depends on so many variables, right? I feel like they can be as engaging as, but you have the element of physicality of being there, that it's definitely more engaging at times. So again, it's hard to tell, right? I've been to excellent webinars, in-person webinars, that they were great, but I've also been to more engaging online webinars for whatever reason. Maybe the speaker was engaging and then I paid more attention. So.
Okay, thank you very much, Andre. And that, I think, brings us to a very important question, and that is, what actually makes an online learning lesson effective? I think it would be correct to say that there may be different degrees of effectiveness, because a lesson can be effective for learners, but not seem to be effective for teachers, and vice versa. So what would you say makes an online learning lesson effective?
Heather, can you get us going on that one?
You want me to start in on this one? What makes it effective? Well, I mean, I think when we've talked about this in our little circles, we've looked at it from the two sides of, is it effective for the teacher or for the learner, right? There are a lot of teachers who deliver something and walk away thinking, wow, that was a great lesson. Wow, that was great, right? And then the learners have either not learned anything, or they've learned something completely different than what you think you taught. So how to make it effective? I think a big part is that question that just came up from Nelia about how to be engaging. I think the engagement's a huge part of that. And I saw that question come up in the chat, and I wrote in there, I said, it depends if you're a good trainer or not, a good teacher or not, if you know the technology, if you know how to do things, if you know how to be an engaging person in general and keep people engaged. Oh, tell me in the chat, blah, 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 yes or no, hold up a red thing, hold up a green thing, get out of your chair, do this, do that. And not doing it just for the sake of doing something, because I can't stand being on webinars where they put me in breakouts to talk about stupid stuff that has nothing to do with what we're talking about, right? This stuff happens all the time. Like, design a course that is effective in the sense that you're teaching what needs to be learned, they are engaged in the content, and they're enjoying it at the same time. Use external tools like Mentimeter for polls, use other brainstorming apps. There's so many things out there. But I know we've talked a lot about, do you need all that tech to be a good trainer? Do you need a perfect setup with the great camera and all that? And I would say absolutely not. You need to be a good teacher. If you're a good teacher and you're an engaging teacher in person, then you can translate that online with a little bit of creativity and thought. So that would be my first gut reaction to that one. I'm a bit passionate because we talk about this a lot all across the industry, teaching industry, professional speaking, training. This has been a huge debate this past year. So yeah, you need to be a good teacher and trainer first.
All right, thank you very much. But here is one more question which I'd like to ask all the participants, and at the same time, I'd like to address this question to our viewers. How would you measure the effectiveness of an online lesson? When would you say that, okay, this was an effective lesson because this, and this? So what are the this, and this things that would mean that your lesson, whether you're a teacher or whether you're a learner, has been effective?
I just jump in there and say, and I think some of you might agree with me, because we get into measuring learning, and is measuring learning Is it possible? Well, of course the answer is yes. Okay. But do we measure it through a test or, some kind of assessment instrument like that? Or do we just take simple, being a good teacher? I think being a good teacher does involve some kind of form of integrated metacognition going on there, Andre. So are we really doing that to check to see it on a formative basis, and how often do we do that so that we can realign the learning? And this is something that I discovered in the last year when I was doing webinars and workshops too, is that you throw that term metacognition at teachers and they realize, what is that? That's new for me. But it goes back to what Heather is saying there. If we're a good teacher, then we probably are doing it. We just might not have a name for it like that. But there are, certain questions that we can ask to make sure that we can measure that is important. So again, I think what Heather didn't say was methodology. I mean, if we're a good teacher, we probably know our methodologies, and part of methodologies is, of course, metacognition, integrating that certain part to measure success. Because I think success means, from the part of the learner, is did they learn something? And what Heather said is they might not have learned what we wanted them to learn, but they probably do have a takeaway, and we can get that information from them if we integrate that and make sure that we give some time to that learning session, that teaching session, that metacognitive aspect that's really needed in any face-to-face or online learning. And if we were doing our face-to-face teaching right, and then we know to integrate that into our online class. I think that's just a given. That's my take on that.
Thank you very much, Ron. There's one thing that sprang to my mind, and that is that we have some tools and we have some techniques to measure the effectiveness of a lesson for a learner. Because, for example, at Skyeng lessons, we have a lot of metrics. We measure how fast a learner does a certain type of exercise, whether he or she has learned to do it faster, what is the percentage of correct answers, and so on. But these are measurements. But when we come to teachers, obviously a lot of technology has entered our lives, and it seems like the technology is there to stay. By the way, speaking about technology, right now in 2 minutes, everybody who has signed up for our panel discussion is going to get a letter with a link which will enable you to get access to our online platform and to take a look at it from the inside. This is the SkyS University online platform. There are some teaching materials, so you'll probably find something interesting. But that brings me back to the same question that I wanted to ask. Do we as teachers need a lot of technology to be effective online teachers? Because you were saying that methodology comes first, but we have to work with technology anyway. So what do we need?
Yeah,
and
so
do we need that much?
If I may, yeah, I remember that something I said that was actually something I got from a friend became quite popular when we were talking. So the idea of, if you don't know how to teach it, don't tech it. So first you have to work on your teaching skills and methodology. And I should give credit to my buddy from Brazil, Stefan Hughes. He was the one who gave a wonderful face-to-face workshop. We were there. And that's when I learned it from him. And the idea is that the tool that you're using, technology as a tool, not just using technology for the sake of technology. And so you have to work on your teaching skills, your methodology. You have to work on strategies that might be more engaging. You have to work with formative and summative assessment. You have to be metacognitive, as Ron said. But again, technology is just there because that's the way to connect you with your students. That's the way for you to make sure that they have access to the materials you have prepared. And if you have everything, but then you haven't worked on your plan, you haven't worked on your methodology, and you haven't done your homework, let's say, for you to deliver a good, effective lesson, then it doesn't matter. All the technology in the world won't make you a better teacher. And I think it was Socrates who said, give me a stick on the sand and I'll teach. They're just right on the sand. It doesn't really matter what you have. It matters how you teach, how you make things available, and how you make your students learn whatever is intended, or as Ron said, incidental learning. They are going to learn something anyway, right? So you might as well use whatever you have at hand so that you can accomplish that goal, right?
All right, thank you, Andrea. But I think that's where we're talking not only about incidental learning, because we need to have that learning organized. So I'd like to ask the same question to Heather. So Heather, would you say that we really need all that technology to be effective online teachers? What is your view on this?
Well, I was trying not to go off on this earlier. I'm a really strong believer that you don't need.
You're the one who got us started on that.
Yeah. And this is across the board. You know, I saw the minute we locked down, people racing out, spending thousands of dollars to create home studios and this and that. That kind of tech, I do not think is necessary at all. I mean, I finally went and bought a Canon camera separate from my built-in and my Mac, which I have used faithfully since 2012 with zero issues, and finally decided beginning of lockdown, maybe I should upgrade because everybody's doing it. I felt the pressure. I finally got the new camera. I got the little green screen, you know, but luckily I had all the rest of the stuff I needed, and you don't need much, right? So tech in the sense of your setup is not important. And in fact, I see more people use the tech poorly and think that they're like being impressive. It's like, if you don't know how to use it, don't be trying to impress people with it. It causes more problems. But I know that, you know, on the teaching side, there are certain tech tools that you need. And I think I'll let some of the others talk about that who are doing more classroom-based learning, because I'm doing those 1001 webinars. I'm doing short half-day trainings. But I know a lot of people on this call are in the classroom. You're running long-term courses with groups. And in that situation, you need certain software in place to help you to do that effectively. But I'll let the others expand on that a bit.
Thank you very much, because I was going to ask the same question to Antoine, because Antoine has a wonderful blog in which he shares some really interesting techniques, not necessarily connected with technology. So Antoine, what do you think? Would you say that we really need all the technology to be effective online teachers from your experience?
It's a yes and no. I agree with Andrea, I agree with Heather. I would say, honestly, it reminds me of a time when I was a teacher. I was looking for a job, and I had this job interview with a local language center, and the DOS was super happy to show me their new smartboard. And when they demonstrated it and they showed me how they used it with students, I was honestly not impressed at all. The students were impressed because it was new technology. But what they were actually doing were just fill in the blank exercises. And instead of each of them doing it at their own speed calmly, they were actually going one after the other. So they spent 10 minutes doing a fill in the blanks on a smartboard instead of being able to do it in 1 minute each on their own. So technology can be impressive if you're just looking for the wow effect. But to be an efficient, effective teacher, I'm happy with Zoom. It lets me connect, and right now we're on Zoom. It's beautiful, it's wonderful. There are a lot of things we can do on Zoom. And depending on where you are, what kind of technology you use, I personally am a big fan of Google Docs. Google Docs, Google Spreadsheets, Google Slides. And by the way, Google provides that for free if you have an educational license. So don't hesitate, don't be shy to contact Google, send them a photo of your educational license, and you have access to all of that for free online storage. To me, it's enough. And I use whatever my students are comfortable with. That's also something I find very important. If I need to teach my students how to use that technology, then I know it's going to maybe be a problem. But yes, I'm happy with Zoom, Google Docs, Google Spreadsheets. It's largely enough. Coming back to what all of us said previously, most important is the content, the teacher, the methodologies used. That is effective teaching. The technology.
If I may.
Sorry, Andre?
Sorry. I just wanted to jump in and actually, because, you know, I talked about the 4 pillars of teaching online that kind of summarize what we need, I think. And maybe you can help me refine this idea. But I think we need a virtual learning environment with a learning management system, like you said. So Google Classroom, for example, works fine for this. We also need a video conferencing tool because we have to connect with our students, and Zoom is probably the best one. That's what we're using here. We also need something to collaborate with our students. So we need some sort of collaborative writing tool like Google Docs or Google Forms, Google Slides, so that they can work together. But I think we also need to create asynchronous content. So we need to be able to use video and audio editing tools. And it could even be Zoom, we can actually record ourselves and then trim and whatever, and then put it somewhere online in their virtual learning environment. So if we have those 4 pillars, then, whatever else you have, that's just a bonus, because that's the fundament, the basic stuff that you need to start working online, I guess.
I'd like to just jump in now and put it all together, because I think what we're all talking about is what, I think you've heard me repeat this acronym again and again and again, and that's TPAC, which is, of course, the acronym for Technology, Pedagogy, and Content Knowledge. It's not new, it's been there, it's a framework, it works. So, get your, whatever that technology is going to be, we got to create a healthy blend of technology that's going to fit to the learner, and that we're all on the same level there. Now, when I first started teaching, it was always learning to learn was always about methodology. And now learning to learn is now about, overcoming that, creating the digital literacies that our learners need to learn. So it's not just methodology anymore. It is just also, the digital literacy. So TPAC is getting that technology right, getting our pedagogy right, which is, of course, methodology, and what is going to really work there. And as Antoine just said, it's content knowledge. If you don't know it, be careful there. And I think if you mix all of those things and you feel good about what you're doing, you're going to get not only a satisfied learner, because let us not forget, some of us are dealing on the corporate level and our customers must be satisfied. We must satisfy their needs. But, our students are our customers too. If we're working in the academic realm, and we need to treat them that way. They will say good things about us or bad things about us, and it's important what our students, our learners, say about us. And a lot of the the opinions that they form about us are going to be based on TPAC, on how we use technology, how we integrate that, what are our methodology skills, and how they're getting accustomed to that, how we're teaching them to work with TBL and excuse me, and PBL and Quill, and content knowledge. That last thing I want to say, let us not forget that when we're doing language, yes, it is about language, but language is just not about mechanics. It's not just about grammar. Okay, there's a lot more to language than just grammar. Okay, so if that content knowledge is just on grammar, then maybe we might be doing our students an injustice. So really think about what we define as content knowledge. Yes, we need grammar because it is about language, but there's a lot more to content knowledge than just mechanics. So I think, again, putting it all together is that TPAC, and Google that acronym TPAC. Find out what that really is and ask yourself that question, what is my TPAC, before you start that class, because that's going to really help you to put together and do backwards design on really designing some great, positive, effective, and successful online learning sessions. It's about TPAC.
Okay, thank you so much, Ron. I see that people in the commentaries to our broadcast agree with you. And as Natalia Penkina says, digital literacy is our everything. A few people have been asking questions, and we're going to answer those questions closer to the end of the panel discussion, because we want to keep to the line that we have in mind. And I'd like to move forward to another issue that seems to be not quite so obvious as it may look. So we have all experienced online learning. We all have our tricks. We all have our tricks of the trade. We have some favorite programs, apps, whatever. And there are people in the chat who say that they have not tried online learning yet, but they're going to try and teach online. But the question is, would you say that online learning is really here to stay? And if yes, where is online CPD going to?
I just
Yes.
start, yeah.
Do you want to take it, Ron?
Yeah, that's a difficult question.
You go, Ron. You started.
Yeah, I would like to say that, you know, is online learning here to stay is sort of a weird question, because the thing is that it's been here for 25 years. Okay, it's not anything new. And you know, I love what I do. I love teaching. And when I first started teaching online in 2007, full time, at a major university, we had to develop that program because, again, we had to copy the people who were already successful. Open University in London, Phoenix University in the United States. These were great models for us, but we had to, you know, Germanize it because it was for Germany, German speakers. So it isn't anything new. And actually, we were catching up in 2007. We had to do a lot of catching up. So, you know, that elephant in the room that we dealt with, you know, last year in 2020, because of the COVID situation, was again catching up to what has already been out there for many years. So to answer the question, is online learning here to stay? You know, a lot of teachers saying, I can't wait to get back to the classroom. Well, wonderful. But the thing is that 2020 opened the eyes to major corporations. Heather can probably confirm that. Because, you know, major corporations are going to look for ways to save money, okay, but, you know, major educational organizations like universities and public school systems, they're onto it too, okay, and they know they cannot go back, okay. So it has exposed something that has already been there. The elephant in the room is now real. It's screaming and it's saying, I'm here, I'm not going away, and I'm here to stay. So you better get used to me and deal with me, because I believe online learning is here to stay. We just, as teachers, need to play some catch up. And 2020 was that year to catch up. We still have 2021. But by 2022, I can promise you that major universities and educational organizations like school systems, large school systems, will already have that as an integral part of their educational systems. And in the corporate world, which Heather can probably, you know, say something about, they're already there. One of my customers is a major telecom, and we've been there for almost 10 years. Okay? Because you know, they deal with customers all over the world, and they told me, Ron, we need you to do some online classes for us. I was scared to death because I was like, how am I going to do intercultural competence online? It was a huge, you know, thing for me. So I made the change over 10 years ago, to really not just, you know, my, you know, academic courses, but my corporate courses as well. So for me, the answer is yes, it is here to stay.
Okay, but what would everybody else say? What is going to happen to continuous professional development in this atmosphere of online learning? Like, for example, in one of the comments in the chat, I see that some people write that CPD is free of cost with online tools and resources. And that's a quotation. So would you agree with that?
I'm going to hop in here because I always have my business glasses on. I'd just like to urge everyone not to forget your value. Okay. I know that there have been a lot of free sessions. I mean, maybe I'm being a little hypocritical being here for free to share our knowledge and learning. But as far as it goes for a large corporation, you know, I had a global pharmaceutical want a free keynote. It's like, who's making more money than you right now, right? I mean, why should I be doing this for free? This is my job, right? And we've had one of the hardest years of my life, you know, in this industry. So remember your worth and value when you're talking with these clients. We need to protect each other in that way, because if we all decide that we're going to just go out and do everything for free from now on, first of all, none of us are going to have homes to live in. But secondly, we're ruining the market for each other. So it's important to just keep in mind that what you do is very valuable, that especially on the corporate side, companies are saving an enormous amount of money. And you are also getting an enormous amount of exposure that you wouldn't have normally received. So typically, if I were to be called in to speak and do a short talk for an organization, they might have flown in 15 people from all over the region, as far as Morocco to New Zealand. They might have flown those people in, and I would have spoken for an hour. And they would have had the cost of all their flights, all of their accommodation, on top of my speaking fee or training fee, teaching fee, whatever you want to call it. They're saving all of that money. They put me online. Not only do I speak to those 15 leaders, I speak to 100 leaders, because now everyone can join a webinar. So then saying that I should be reducing the rate, well, I'm actually delivering more value. I'm reaching more of your people. I'm delivering the same content I would have done in person, and I'm good with technology. I'm incredibly engaging. I know how to do this. So I believe in my abilities to deliver. And therefore, I will keep my pricing where it should be. And I just want to remind everyone in our industry how important that is, because I know it's very tempting when we are starving and we've had our industry completely turned upside down to agree to anything. And that works for the short term, but it can put us in a really difficult position in the long term. So we don't want to move backwards. We want to keep pushing our industry forward and keep working towards earning what we truly are worth as online educators, because that's what we are. And as far as, where the online learning is going for CBD and everything else, other than the free programs, I think it's a mix of everything. I agree with Ron completely. We've seen this in the corporate world for years. I've seen a big shift in them being more willing to do the live online training. In the past, they've been much more willing, and they have had their own internal systems for on-demand learning. And there have been massive investments in the last year in things like LinkedIn Learning and the internal licenses in the companies where people can go on at any time and eat up all the stuff they want to look at and learn, right? And that has put some pressure on us as live trainers. But now they're being forced, right? I've been begging them to do live training online since 2014 when I was moving around the world, and it took a pandemic to convince them that this is the way forward. But make sure you're good at what you do. Make sure that you have a good methodology, you have a good lesson plan, you're fully prepared, you've tested everything 500 times. Because if you go in and make a mess of everything, then they lose trust in hiring the next person. So we really need to be there for each other, support each other, help each other, share our knowledge with each other, so we can all lift each other up during a difficult time where we're all learning. This learning curve is crazy. So just a few thoughts on that to keep in mind as we move forward.
Heather, I'd like to ask you a question.
Yeah.
Are you saying that there's money to be made?
There is so much money to be made. Oh my goodness. Yeah, there's a lot of money to be made. If you grab I don't think people realize how many opportunities are in front of them right now. This entire situation, the past year, has opened so many doors. It has leveled the playing field. And there's never been an easier entry to creating a business online from anywhere in the world. I know I saw someone in the comments a little bit earlier saying, I want to start, but I don't know how. And I hope that we can maybe address that in a bit, because I think we could all add some ideas to that as well.
I would just like to kind of add there is that, when I first started doing this, and I, have my own business to run, it was a face-to-face. And for us making the conversion from, face-to-face classes and all the workshops and seminars that we offered in our offices, we don't have to pay that rent anymore. We don't need that anymore, which is why we decided we're just going to be completely online. And I tell myself now, why did I not do this earlier? And so this is that is happening. But let us not forget You know, Heather is an example of that. You know, she has her own company. Antoine has his company. Andres, all of us have. You know, we're running businesses here, and that's very important. And you know, running businesses means making money. We're not a publisher, and let us not forget that a lot of those free webinars that we see on the internet are run by publishers selling books. Okay, so they can afford to do that. So you got to ask yourself, where's my niche? Where do I fit into this? And what do I have to offer? Am I offering something different than what other people are offering? And what is that unique selling point that's going to really make me stand out and want people to sign a contract with me? Am I offering something just like everybody else? Or am I doing something different? And is it better? Those are some questions we might ask ourselves if we're in this to make some money for ourselves and want to pay for our house. Because I think we do need money.
Well, let me comment on that a little bit. What you've been telling really reminds me of a story. I don't know whether this is a true story or not, but this is a story which is said to be about the famous artist, Pablo Picasso. Once he was approached by a rich man who asked him to create a drawing for him. So Picasso took out a sheet of paper and drew his famous Dove of Peace, which you probably remember, which was and probably still is a very, very famous image. And it took Picasso about 5 minutes to draw the dove. And when the rich guy asked him how much the drawing cost, Picasso said something around $1,000. So the rich guy seemed to grow indignant and he said, "Why? You spent only 15 minutes to draw that. How can you charge me so much for that?" And Picasso said, "Don't forget about the dozens of years I've spent practicing and learning." And I think that really adds to what you have been talking about. We are all here specialists in our respective industries. And that leads to another question. The life is changing. The tools are changing. The methodology has to change in some ways to follow the changes in life. But where would you say and how do you see your specific industries moving forward? May I address this question to Antoine to begin with? Because Antoine works a lot, not only with adults, but also with school children, school-age children, everything, if I'm correct. Because you show so many brilliant activities for school children.
Thank you. Yes, absolutely. Our language center caters to children, tweens, teens, adults. We have corporate clients as well, like Heather. There are a lot of IT companies here. If I'll let I'll let Heather talk about corporate. In terms of teaching kids, tweens, teens, we shouldn't forget that they're the parents. So a lot of communication about switching to online learning is not only talking to the kids, showing them that it is also engaging, it is also fun, and they're also learning, but proving that to the parents as well. The younger generation, let's face it, are easier to adapt and to adopt new technologies and find their way of using it. Parents can be a bit reluctant, but we haven't had trouble. It's all about showing the parents the value. To come back to what Heather said and what Ron was talking about as well, it is important to demonstrate your value. On this, I would actually use an example that has nothing to do with education. I'm also an engineer and I'm very interested in sciences, space exploration. I'm a big fan of NASA. And I always really have trouble when I'm asked, why are we still spending so much money on space exploration? Why does NASA get all these budgets? Well, you know what? First of all, it's nothing compared to the military budget, but that's to the point. Most importantly, what NASA do, and you can check this out on their website, NASA regularly publish reports to show their impact in the economy. Because space exploration means a lot of new technologies generated, means a lot of new technologies adopted by the commercial sector, means new businesses or existing businesses improving their techniques, things like that. So NASA is very smart in that. NASA is able to demonstrate its value to society. And I feel that that is something that in education we sometimes lack. It is very important for us to demonstrate, if we are going to make money, as we say, off of education, that we need to show to the students, to the learners, that what they are learning is going to help them. It seems obvious to us teachers. We always think, oh, we're helping students build their futures. Well, what does that exactly mean? That is often a bit too general for parents. With English, you're going to get in those universities. You're going to be able to get those job interviews that you really want. Whatever your ambitions, it is important to be able to demonstrate our value, our impact in their lives. And that is something that the private sector does quite well because we need clients.
If I may just add something, Antoine, that you mentioned, if it weren't for NASA, we wouldn't even be here connecting because we need satellites, right? And if you think about primary school, that's something that I also work with. I think one of the things that is definitely going to stay around for a very long time is not only online learning experiences, but also hybrid learning experiences. Because if you work especially in kindergarten, for example, like K-12, we know from reports from MIT, for example, or the Department of Education, that for very, very young learners, we need that human connection, but it doesn't have to be all the time. And that's something that takes a lot of convincing. We were talking about parents, and parents, they can't understand that. And that's our biggest challenge nowadays, to show that online learning can help your kids. It actually works. But we also feel that we need that human element now and then. That's why I think hybrid learning for kids, flexible learning environments, working with projects, storytelling, playful activities, that's it takes a new level with hybrid learning nowadays, right?
Andre, you're bringing up something there that, both of you have already mentioned, that parents and getting parents on board. I think what we're also not talking about here, and I want to approach that from a psychological, perspective here, is that for many, many years, and even till now, many parents think that teachers are babysitters. And now they're seeing that, wait a minute, now I see how my kids act. Now they've been at home. Now I see what, I'm sending my kids off to this, person who was going to be taking care of them and educating them. Now, wait a minute, what's happening here? That's another reality.
That's so true, Ron.
It's a reality that nobody wants to deal with. But I work at a university where, let me tell you, we have daycare centers, and now the parents are, the parents are actually the professors. Now they're complaining because they have to deal with their own children and their academics. Okay, so I have to say that is another thing that governments and politics they're trying to solve all of this right here, because again, I live in Germany. This is a very social, and Heather lived in Denmark, probably even more social than Germany. But that's another elephant in the room that we have to deal with. Education, parents must come to the realization they need to take part in that, and that's another thing that needs to be dealt with. Don't push it. The teachers are not babysitters, okay? We're there to educate your children. We're going to help them. We're going to do everything that we can, but you got to help us too, okay? So getting them on board also means making them, take full responsibility of what's going on there, not just pushing that over to the teacher. That's another thing that we have to deal with in 2020 that came out. That's going to be more part of, they're pushing it to politics, but it does come to what you do and how you accept the responsibility of your child's education, okay? And I think there are cultural aspects to that as well too, because I know in Germany, I can only speak for that, is that parents do take to a certain extent, a lot of responsibility for their children, but they hide it in a way. And right after school, they send them to another school and keep them there till 6 o'clock. Then they let them come home at 6 o'clock. That's how they deal with that. So, everybody's different. But again, I think that's that other thing that has been exposed in 2020. Parents must come on board and accept that it's a joint responsibility and not just the teacher being the babysitter and the educator.
Yes, that's very true. The same thing happened in Russia when so many people who are parents were shocked to discover that it is actually not so easy to have their children around and to try to, I don't know, I was going to say to restrain, but of course it's, we're not talking about restraining children, but rather try to keep them entertained, keep them educated, keep them well fed, I don't know, keep them happy. And a lot of parents realize that keeping children happy and educated is actually a full-time job, even more than that. But since you teach at the university level, where would you say, Ron, where would you say the state educational institutions are going? How are they changing?
Well, you know, all of us are in different countries right now. You're in Russia, Heather's in Singapore, Andres in Brazil, and, you know, Antoine's in a different part of Russia than you, Alexey. But I think that my answer to that is probably very Northern European in perspective, is that, you know, we're very organized when it comes to, you know, academia, universities, you know, and we get together, we make decisions. I have to say I'm very lucky to be on a planning committee for some of those things. And we don't plan for 1 week ahead or 1 month ahead. We plan for 1 year ahead, sometimes 2 years ahead. We have to really do some strategic management there. And I can tell you that one of the decisions we have made here at many of the universities in Germany, we're online now, and we are staying online till 2022. Although the COVID situation has brought many things to light, which are very inconvenient truths that we have to deal with. One of them being we really didn't have our professors on board with the latest technology and how to teach online, and we still have to solve that problem. The German government is throwing millions and millions of euros at every university to try to help solve that problem. Money is not going to solve it 100%. You know, getting people on board on, you know, to online learning, but it is here to stay. And how we're approaching that really, it's a band-aid solution still for us. Okay, where, you know, a lot of unhappy professors who just feel that they don't have to do it, wishing, praying, and hoping that everything will go back to face-to-face, where they can just do their frontal lectures and not have to worry about the technology, and that Moodle is going to solve everything. Well, we realize that's not the case. So, you know, academia in Northern Europe, I can speak for Northern Europe, is that we're planning way ahead. We're already to 2022. We're staying online, and hopefully that we'll get to the point. For us, getting to the hybrid model will be a good point to reach for us, a healthy point. We do see that it is going to be that in the future. Universities have to restructure themselves now. They need to give value to what they're doing, and they have to explain that now. Universities will become very competitive and in the whole world, actually, and they're going to have to rationalize and explain what's the difference between paying for Harvard, you know, $120,000 a year to $1,200 for some community college. So all of that's coming, you know, to light here, and, you know, universities, I know in Germany, are competing very much with each other now, which is a good thing. Actually, it's a good thing to compete against each other, because that means that quality will, you know, come to the forefront, and not quantity. Because right now, what it is with many European universities, they get money from the government, funding from the government, and that funding is based on how many students they have enrolled. Okay, so, you know, right now it was just get the students, you know, enrolled, and, you know, we're going to get money. And well, it's not going to work that way anymore, because the students are going to have more of a choice now, you know, because the prices will go down, the competition's going to go up. So a lot of competition is going to be happening in the academic world, and a lot of that is going to be based upon, you know, what hybrid models you offer and how you really plan those classes. That's how we're doing that in Germany. But again, I think I'm speaking for a lot of Northern Europe.
Okay, so it looks like this entire situation is bringing the universities even closer to business models. And while the primary purpose of university is to educate, they still have to think about business. And talking about businesses, Heather works a lot with corporate training programs, and she's a very, 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 very famous trainer. Let me let everybody know about that in case they haven't heard yet. Heather, where do you think the corporate training is going to? What is the direction that you experience or see or can predict?
It's good none of you could see my face when he called me famous. I'm hardly famous. But I think I've already talked quite a bit about where I think, the corporate market's going. And I think the opportunities are for people who grab them the fastest. So, one of the very first things I did when we went virtual was I reorganized all of my programs to create webinars. So I knew that they were not going to want full days in front of a camera. And any corporate who comes to me asking me for that, I really encourage them not to go that way. We've broken it down. So a full day of training in the corporate world is typically a 6-hour program. 6 hours content. We break that down into 2 3-hour half days. That's the maximum we'll run. And then we break that 3-hour into 2 1.5-hour webinars. So then what we do is we can repackage all of that. It's all the same content that we did face-to-face, but we've adjusted it. We've been creative. We've brought in new ideas, new engagement techniques in the online space. And then what we're able to do is take, a few different full day or 2-day programs. We break them down into a bunch of webinars. We put together a webinar outline. If you visit my LinkedIn, you can download it there. You can see a perfect example of what we've done with both training and webinars. And then we're selling those into corporations as a weekly or a bi-weekly or a monthly webinar series. So here you go. We're changing the way we are learning. Before, vendors would go in, do a 1-day training, hope you learned something, bye, I'm out. And really, I think a lot of people in the training industry thought, what is this actually doing? Do we achieve anything? There isn't the partnership that we really want. Well, now we're getting it. We're getting to see long-term change happen in a company because we're coming in and giving these bite-sized pieces over time. And when we do it like that, we can follow the organization. We can be a partner in the organization. We can start taking on more of a consulting role by helping them develop virtual toolkits in the organization and then provide training to supplement that. There are so many opportunities to do things that I think are even better than what we did face-to-face, to be perfectly honest. I think my presentation skills programs are better online because I get more one-on-one contact in coaching sessions. We've restructured everything into 3 half days of 3 hours each. And then we take another couple days in the following week, break all the participants into little groups. I do a full day. They log in at their time slot. We're able to just have that connection in a different way. So if you are in this position where you're approaching corporates, and obviously I'm on more of the communicative competency side, I'm not teaching English grammar, right? That's a little bit different. Although I started there, that's where I started. I started with typical normal English teaching and transitioned to pronunciation. And I still do a lot of that today. I've done it online since 2013. I designed a fully online program in pronunciation in 2013. And I think on-demand learning is a huge opportunity if you can and it's so easy, you guys. I mean, and the standard does not have to be super huge. People like the authenticity. If you're going to go into corporate, there's a certain level of professionalism you'll need, a basic clean setting. But if you wanted to start building a following on YouTube, if you wanted to get out there and do more LinkedIn Live, Facebook Live, doing all of these things, it's just so simple. You can do it on your phone. So more than ever before, you have the opportunity to enter the market. It's never been easier. And if you already have a lot of content, which every teacher does, you've got a whole library of content. And you've developed all these activities for your students, and you have papers and binders and piles of things all over. If your office looks anything like mine, this part looks really, really good. You should see this part here. No. I'm lucky I can find my water, okay? So I know you've got the content. Now it's about packaging it and being creative about how you present it and how you show your value in the marketplace. But I don't know if that even answered the question. I kind of went off on a tangent, but really what I'm trying to say is you have tons of opportunity. The market is going to continue to grow. They're looking for more and more people who can navigate the online space. And there are lots and lots of people who were fantastic face-to-face who absolutely bomb online, cannot figure it out. So if you have a knack with being on camera, if this is where you shine, the future is bright. It's very, very bright.
Can I just add there that, what you're saying, Heather, is I'm sure this is not some realization that you made in 2020. You've actually been there already before this happened. And I just want to go back a few years because, again, connecting that is online learning here to stay. And we look at that corporate, thing. If we look at some of the leaders in corporate training, IMD out of Lausanne, Switzerland, the Institute for Management Development has been doing this for, and that, they were the leaders in this, and corporations started to copy them. So, it's barely trickling down from, major corporations into, everyday education. And here we're seeing again that it's catch up because it's been there. It's already been there. And nothing succeeds like success. So copy what we see is working. Go to Heather's site and see what she's doing. I'm going to go over there and copy her, say why, what's wrong with that? That's great. We need some models out there. We need people and see who's doing things and what we like and benchmark it. Get out there and just do it because it's there.
That's a really good point, Ron. And I think, as teachers, as an industry, that level of supporting each other. I always say that, like, you can find my outlines everywhere. Look at my examples, don't copy, but I mean, you can see exactly how many different kinds of presentation skills courses can there be in the world, right? I mean, there's nothing super unique about mine. People come to me because they like me. People who come to me won't want to go to you. People who go to you won't want to go to me. We have to stop thinking we're competing. You guys, this is a massive, massive, massive industry. Like last I checked 5 years ago, it was like $63 billion. The English as a foreign language industry worldwide. Billion. Like, that's huge. If we can just get like one little teeny baby crumb off of that pie, that's enough for all of us. I think that we, especially in times of crisis, we get really scared. We get panicky. We think that there's no business anywhere. It is everywhere around you. You have to have the confidence to step up and grab it. And truly, just like Ron says, go to my website. Yeah, go check out my programs. Look at how I structure and outline. Learn, right? We have a Facebook group, the English Teacher Business Network. Join us there. We talk about these things and how we can share with each other. We need a lot more of that in our industry moving forward.
Okay, thank you so much. And I think this is a very interesting turn that our discussion is taken because we started with questions and we seem to have found and shared some answers. And now I have one more question, and this is this. What 3 quick tips would you give to the teachers who are listening to us? What suggestions or recommendations would you give them? So who'd like to start?
Well, I think I can go first because I can address, primary school teachers, and then we can move from there. And one of the biggest struggles I witnessed as a mentor is that they really don't know how to use the basic stuff, the 4 pillars that I mentioned. Like, you have to learn how to use Zoom and whatever video conferencing tool you have, and a learning management system. You have to be able to create content that is engaging. So you have to create videos and podcasts, audio files, whatever. And if you don't know that, then it gets very complicated. The other thing I'd say is, like, be you, technology as a vessel, as a tool. It don't have to change who you are. Let your personality be there. That's, people tell me I'm engaging face-to-face, so I try to be engaging online. I just try to be me, I'm not changing anything. And I feel like a lot of people, they really think they have to deliver the best professional edited content, for example, and they kind of lose a little bit of themselves there, So they record multiple times to make sure everything is perfectly edited. And then that's not you, right? It's artificial. Like Heather said, you just be yourself in front of a camera and then let it shine, right? And if I can tell you something else, I think you have to get some sort of certification or prepare yourself not just taking all of those, free online webinars that we have, but try to actually invest in your career as a professional and in this online world. So look for opportunities for you to be certified somehow. There's so many nowadays. You can try Future Learn. You can go to Heather. You can go to Ron, to Antoine, to me. And there's edX, but try to do something that actually adds value to what you're doing, like a certificate, like a course that was put together especially for people like you who are in need of something to transform their careers.
Okay, thank you very much. What about you, Antoine? What 3 tips would you give?
Sorry. Yeah, to build up on that, I would say first tip is don't be shy, don't be scared. You're going to try, we all have. I think I'm right in saying that. Don't be shy, don't be scared. If you still haven't switched to online, try it. And you're going to fail. Try it with colleagues first. If, as Heather said, we have a great community. That's why I love our industry. I wouldn't trade it for the world. We're a very supportive community. So if you're really, really too scared to try with your students, try with colleagues. So first, don't be shy, don't be scared. Try, fail, you'll succeed. Secondly, I already talked about it. Learn to demonstrate your value. Because that is something that we teachers, we like to focus on language, on general things like building the future and things like that. That doesn't especially mean something to parents, to business managers, owners, if you're going to, in the corporate world. Learn to think about really your value. And again, think about that example about NASA. NASA could as well talk about, let's explore space. What if Christopher Columbus had just gone to America once and never gone back? That doesn't really mean anything. But when you tell people how much money the economy generates thanks to the innovations from NASA, then all of a sudden people, okay, all right, we should continue investing in that. That is good. And my third quick tip would be think of your teacher toolbox. I really like thinking of my teacher toolbox. Heather made the joke, and I think we can all relate. Most teachers, we're messy. If we all looked at our desks right now, it'd be in a mess. At the same time, I think we're not that messy in our minds, in our brains. We're able to build compartments. And we've talked about teaching different things already today. It's the 21st century. We all know now that teaching English is not just teaching grammar, teaching vocabulary, things like that. There are communication skills as well that go with it. You need to be able to build your teacher toolbox very effectively in understanding, okay, how do I teach grammar if I need to teach it? How do I teach vocabulary if I need to teach it? How do I coach into communication skills? And all that needs to be just organized in your mind so that you can prepare for your lessons effectively for yourself as well. Nobody wants to plan a lesson for 4 or 5 hours. Those are my 3 tips. Try, fail, succeed, learn to demonstrate your value, and your teacher toolbox.
Okay, thank you very much. What about your tips, Ron?
Well, I'm listening to everybody here. I want to just repeat something that Heather said, because I think that's my #1 tip. Find a PLN, a personal learning network that fits to what you find. That it's there. We used to think of it, you could only get it at conferences. It's online now. So there's a lot of personal learning networks out there of teachers, helping teachers, supporting teachers. And, however it is, teachers need teachers. We need to be around teachers. We need to hear what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong. How can we improve? What do we improve? Where do we, invest that time that we have and money in our CPD. So again, that really starts with building that PLN or PLN, your personal learning network. So that's my number one tip. But the second one thing is always ask yourself that question, and everybody's really saying that here. I just use the acronym TPAC. What is your TPAC? Okay, it is the question as a school owner I ask teachers. If they don't know the answer to that, they're not right for me. They're not where they need to be to work for me. And people think I'm a snob. Well, let them think that. I need teachers who can deliver the products I sell. And that is the business part of this business. And if teachers cannot, tell me what their TPAC is, well, they need to go back home and think about that, because then they should be asking themselves why they don't have the job they want, okay? And it sometimes is about because they can't answer the question, what is my TPAC? That's my number one. Number two tip, what is your TPAC? Okay, find the answer to that. And the third one here is sort of kind of almost repeating what Andre said. He said, be yourself. But I want to take that one step further. And sometimes, and I see this so much, is that teachers teach because they want to be liked. They teach that because they teach towards that direction. What do you think? That we're blind? You think that your students don't see that? They see that, okay? You're not being yourself. And trying to be liked is not going to always get you where you want to be, because as Heather said, some people are going to go to Heather for the presentations, and some people are going to go to Antoine for the presentations. Some might go to Andre, but I want my share of it too, okay? And they're going to make that decision. And yes, they might make the decision based upon they like how I pronounce things or how she does things or whatever, and some people, sad but true, they make their decisions on who they think is nice. And in the end, they ask themselves that maybe that might not have been the greatest choice to make, okay? So teachers, think about that. Are you teaching because you want people to like you? Or are you really offering something else? So when you be yourself as a professional, okay? That's what I really want to say there, okay? And don't teach just because you want people to like you, okay? They need to like your product and what you're delivering. That's more important, because at the end of the day, that's what they're paying you for. They're not paying you sometimes to be the nice Mary Poppins, okay? They're paying you because you're, a great teacher and you're giving them what they need, okay? And that's sometimes how parents make decisions, okay? And remember authenticity, okay? That's, again, what they be yourself and be authentic, okay? Don't try. Anybody who knows me knows I'm a drama queen, okay? And a lot of people don't like me because I am direct, but a lot of people like me because I am direct, okay? And that's what they want. They want and need directness, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it for them, okay? I'm not the one you want to come to if you want, somebody to, sugarcoat things for you, okay? Just so that you know. I'm going to be direct, but that's me. That's authentic. That's me, and that's who I am, and I don't really change that. So again, my third tip is be yourself, be authentic, and don't teach because you want people to like you.
Okay, thank you so much, Ron. I was just going to say something, and that something that we were discussing before the panel discussion started. Ron remarked that out of all the participants, all men have beards. So that's a funny coincidence. And now, but I was going to say that since Ron was talking about people liking or disliking somebody, it has been a very, very, very long time since I last was present in the company of such very, very likable participants, speakers, and listeners, because that refers to the audience and to the very informative commentaries and their remarks. And I'd like to ask Heather to give 3 tips.
I'll try to keep it short. Adding just to what Ron said about likability and stuff, just remember and keep in mind that being liked isn't really enough. You also need to be known and you need to be trusted. The know, like, trust, right? And I think the trust is the most important part for us as educators. They need to trust us to be honest with them. They need to trust us to give the feedback they need, trust us to know our topic. So a huge part of, I did only have one tip, but now I guess it turned into two, because a lot of people are asking in the comments around, do we need a certificate? Do we need this? Do we need that? More CPD? And yes, you need to be educated. You need to know how to teach. Okay, so yes, absolutely. If you do not have any kind of teaching qualification or certification, number one, you go out there and you get one. You entering our market without any kind of formal education and teaching is, to me, a bit absurd. It's like I just wake up one day, I'm going to be an astronaut. Hey, NASA, we were talking about NASA. Hire me. No, I don't know. I can't even do math. How? And that's what's scary about our industry. This is one of the only industries where people can just wake up one day and decide they're going to visit Thailand and become a teacher. It's not appropriate. So yes, if you do not have proper qualifications, number one tip, go out there and get them. You don't have to collect certificates though. Okay. Once you have your teaching qualification, get out there and teach. And then if you do plan to have your own business or start your own thing online or become a consultant or whatever it is that you're thinking of doing, then you better start learning about business, because that's the other biggest problem I see for teachers. You're excellent, fantastic teachers. You're much, much, much better teachers than me. I guarantee it 100 times over. But you don't know anything about business. So you've got to get out there and learn from our communities as well, so that you can learn how to run and run a profitable business. So I guess now I do have three. So, okay, building the trust. It's so good. None of you can see their reactions. I can see them on Zoom and they're all cracking up at me. So build the trust, get the qualifications. And now I can't even remember the actual tip I had to start. Yes, I do. Know your niche. That was the one I was going to say was my only tip. Know your niche. And if you say, but I love everything. I love teaching all about English, every bit of English, grammar, vocabulary, pronunciation. I love being a teacher. Okay, then what is your niche market? Do you love being a teacher for university students? Do you love being a teacher for children? Do you love being a teacher in a primary school, K-6? Do you love being an English teacher for corporate professionals? Who is it you're teaching? And then you could go deeper. Do you love teaching people at the beginner level, at the intermediate, at the highly advanced level? What is your niche? You can't be everything to everyone, and you cannot be knowledgeable about everything. So choose what your specific area of expertise is and go miles deep in that area of specialty. So I chose very early on, pronunciation was my thing. I went deep. I lived in a regional linguistics library for about 3 years, developing my online course, reading every single article, book, academic work that was put out around English as a lingua franca, around pronunciation. And that is what's necessary if you really want to stand out. So know your niche and know what value you as an individual that is unique is bringing to the table, okay? So my very short one-liner tip just turned into like a 5-minute soapbox. I'm sorry. Continue. Back to you, Alexey.
Yeah, but thank you very much, because all the tips seem to be very, very insightful. By the way, we have lots of people writing thank you and that they enjoying the discussion and everything. So what I can say to those people who want to say thank you, if you can please give a like to this broadcast. That could be a good idea, because the video is going to stay there. You will have the same link, which you can share with your colleagues and everything. Now we have nearly run out of time, so we have only a little time to answer a few questions which came up in the chat, and we'll take a look at the questions right now. And after the panel discussion, the listeners will get a letter with a link to some useful resources, and don't be surprised if in a couple of days you will get a letter trying to asking you to fill in a quick questionnaire, because we would really love to know in what other ways we could be of use to you, what other topics you would like to be covered. And basically, what is your impression of this panel discussion? And now on to the questions. I think we can do it this way. I will read out the question, and whoever feels that he or she would like to answer that, we'll just go at it, okay? So that we wouldn't have to, we wouldn't try to answer, to give an answer each. So question number one, what are the essential skills that distinguish a good online teacher nowadays?
Well, I think Heather, when we were talking about this, Heather brought up that thing about, hey, you got to get your technology right, and so, you can't be online if you're, you don't get that technology right. So I think that's one of the things that's going to really make, now just because you're online doesn't automatically mean you're a good online teacher, so do we need all of that, those apps, those 100 apps and all of those technologies and all of that? No, we don't. Okay. I think a good online teacher knows really, to boil it down to the really best ones that's going to really make that. And that takes a while to learn how to do that. You're not going to get it right in the beginning. As Antoine said, don't be afraid of mistakes. You're going to make some, but definitely I think one of the things is what makes a good online teacher is getting your technology right, getting your methodology right as well, because let's face it, face-to-face methodologies don't always work online. Okay, they're not the same thing, and online learning is not the same thing. And Heather's talking about this on-demand learning, where you do videos and things, and people can just click onto it, and that's also a different kind of learning. So get your there's not just one kind of online learning. There's many different kinds of online learning, and know what you're really doing. That also makes an effective and good online, teacher. But again, I think what also makes a good online teacher is, and that word that is just driving everybody crazy, engaging. Is that person, are you engaging with those people? And engagement, people who are listening out there, doesn't mean to do Kahoot. It doesn't mean to get them to run all over the house and find an object and describe it. That's not engaging, okay? Engaging means something deeper than that. And, it means, are you getting them to really, do tasks and really work and be the content creators and getting them interactive and collaborative and, doing the 4 C's of 21st century learning. So people are sick of hearing that, but hey, that's the basic part of that. And getting all that right is, really, I think that's my take on what makes an effective online teacher, getting all of that right. But then again, that's TPAC.
Okay, thank you so much. So as I said, one person, one question, because otherwise we just won't have enough time to answer all the questions, and this discussion could go on and on and on. And I think Heather is on the farthest time zone, and it is late evening already in Singapore. Right, now the next question is from Daria, and how to keep the learning atmosphere positive with the help of online tools and other techniques. Who'd like to answer that?
Well, maybe I can take this one, if that's okay, because I will draw some parallels with the online experience I've been witnessing here with primary school teachers, and I feel like if you're doing a face-to-face lesson, there's always this, playful moment, and then go back to your desk moment, right? And I feel like variation has to do with the formula, let's say. We have to be able to make something that flows, that actually makes sense, but then again, to go back and forth, from very teacher-centered ways of teaching, like, just you lecturing, but then sending them to do something else. Like you can use, like Ron said, Kahoot or Mentimeter, or there's so many tools that we can use nowadays. And I feel like this is one of the big problems that I've been, in the lessons I've been observing, that we're just so tired, exhausted, struggling, especially primary school teachers. They don't have any ideas left, and then they're just doing the basic stuff, which is lecturing. And that doesn't work well, especially for kids. They have a very short attention span. So you have to add some variation, some diversity to get them to do something. You don't have to send them around the house and get something blue, like Ron said. That works sometimes, but you can have them draw something online. You can use Jamboard, for example. You can have them communicate with their peers using a different type of technology, especially if they're teens. So maybe they have WhatsApp groups, for example. And it's totally fine for you to tell them, okay, so now so there's a classroom WhatsApp group, just text someone so you can do some pair work on your phone, and then you come back here and you share with us. So you have to add some variation. Otherwise, it's going to be boring and not engaging.
Okay, thank you so much. The next question is this, and it is from Daria as well. Please share your best trick you use during your online sessions, which helps to maintain the rapport between student and teacher during the lesson. So what do you do to maintain the rapport between the student and the teacher? Anyone? As for me, I just keep asking questions, and students seem to like that.
Shall I jump in here?
Oh, yes, please.
Yes? Best trick, so I think we can talk about a lot here, because, I mean, maintaining rapport between student and teacher, there's just so much to cover. So you're asking for a best trick. Very quickly, for example, for kids, what I find works like a charm are routines. Routines help kids feel in a safe, comfortable environment. They know where they are. They're used to the people that they're around, whether it's their classmates, teachers, things like that. And even at the most basic levels, you can have simple routines, just like weather forecast at the beginning of each lesson. And it goes a bit with preparing for small talk in English, because not all cultures talk about the weather as much as we do in English, but it's a fun little routine for kids. They like it. They take turns being the weather forecast guy, and it works like a charm. For tweens, teens, a trick that I like is switching from comfort to challenge. When we were actually preparing for this panel discussion, I found Heather had something to say that was very interesting. We were talking, yes, you. We were talking about the camera switched on during online sessions. Yeah. And Heather brought up, hey, why should we force students to switch on their cameras? It makes us comfortable, but not especially them. And I thought a lot about that. And I agree with Heather. What I do want to add, though, is that sometimes we do need to challenge students out of their comfort zones, because that is preparing them for the real world. And you never know, they might not be comfortable with switching on their cameras now or yet, but they might have to in the future. So I like, with teens groups, I like having this dynamic. They all know that there will be moments where we're at a comfort stage of the lesson and they can do the exercise the way they like. And there are moments where we're going to switch to challenge, and here it becomes fun. It's not anymore me, the teacher, dictating the way they're supposed to do things. No, they're perfectly aware that the challenge is for them. It's for their personal growth. Yay, all right, challenge time. We're pushing ourselves out of our comfort zone. And they like it. It is very similar to the teacher saying, but it's a different perspective. It's their choice. They're part of the choice. They're part of the dynamic. It's challenge time.
Antoine, you're very humble, but I just want to say that really the answer is, if you really want some great ideas, watch Antoine's little videos because there are great little tips. And by the way, Heather, after you said that, I went and did it. I was like, why turn the cameras on?
Yeah, that was really interesting.
It was like, why didn't I realize that before? Because
this is an interesting one, and a lot of people disagree with me on it. Especially, I don't even know, especially. I think sometimes we can be a bit self-centered in in saying, I need the feedback. If you aren't confident in what you're doing and what you're teaching, that you need constant feedback from your audience at all times to ensure that you're doing a good job. It's more about thinking through, why do you want them to have the cameras on? Why do they need to be on? Is it for you or is it for them? And also be considering, how does it change the layout of their screen? When you share a slide, for example, and everybody becomes little teeny boxes, how does that change the dynamic? Do they need the camera on at that time? I would say if you're having a small discussion, or even in the business sense, I say this too, when they're discussing something and there are 8 people, get those cameras on. We need the contact. But when one person is presenting in Teams of all platforms and everyone turns into a little box at the bottom, why on earth should they have their cameras on? We can't even see them. We can't even see their faces. So just be thinking about, be considerate of, am I asking my students to do something for my benefit because I'm needy and I need the attention and the emotional support and feedback that they're listening and they love me? Or is it because there's a real purpose and reason for them to have them on? But believe me, this is a massive debate. People hate me for saying it. But wow, you guys thought about it. I think it's great. Thanks.
You know, that I just have to mention something, Heather. There's research on how introverts are learning, and it's actually better for them to keep their cameras off, because then they can actually focus. There's no, you know, they're not being overstimulated with, and you know, it's not like causing cognitive overload, because they have to be aware that they are being seen by everyone. So it actually works for a lot of people. So why ask them to turn their cameras on, right?
It levels the playing field.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, yep.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you so much. And one more last question, and from Daria again. Daria seems to be today's champion in asking very interesting and motivating questions. And this question is as follows. What advice would you give to a newly qualified teacher? Where to start their teaching journey from?
Well, you know, I teach teachers and hundreds of teachers, and I get asked that question all the time. I don't think the answer has ever changed in the last few years. Is walk into that classroom feeling good about yourself and knowing that you're going to give it your best. You're going to try your best in that classroom, and you're going to, you know, learn as you go, and that you are going to make mistakes. Learn to be comfortable with that. And that one thing you must always accept if you are starting, because it will never change even 25 or 30 years later, and it hasn't changed for me. I have accepted lifelong learning. And you must accept that if you're going to be a teacher, you must learn, and that it will always change. No one is on the same learning path, and we all take different paths. There's more than one way to Rome, but definitely that do accept that you're going to make mistakes, and some of them will be embarrassing when we think about some of the things we've done, and we laugh about it now, and we can talk about it, but we probably didn't talk about it because we were embarrassed, okay? But it's okay to make mistakes. You're going to learn. Accept lifelong learning as part of that journey of self-development, and eventually you're going to be happy with what you turn out to be. You know, might take 30 years, but you know, you're going to get there. No one's born a great teacher. It's a long journey to get there.
Okay, thank you so much.
And you're going to lose some hair along the way.
Well, thank you so much, Ron. And I'd like to read not a question, but one commentary, which came up earlier in the chat, but I think it really sums up what each and every of you have been talking about and doing. And this commentary is from Svetlana Dika, who writes, "Thanks a lot to all participants of our panel discussion. Each of you is very stunning and motivating." It is time for us to say goodbye, even though we have raised such issues and topics that we could carry on for hours and hours and hours. And judging by how active people have been in the chat all along, This was really interesting and useful for them. Before I give the floor to our wonderful speakers to say goodbye to you, I'd like to remind that we have sent you a letter with some useful links. You can also follow one of the links to get access to free resources of Skyeng University. And by the way, if you sign up at least 3 students, then from those people who have signed up 3 students, we will choose 5 persons, each of whom is going to get a big pizza. Unfortunately, this offer works only in Russia, because if you send a pizza abroad, I don't think that you would really want to taste it once you get it, especially in these COVID times. So we'll keep it inside the borders. So
don't you dare send me a pineapple and ham pizza.
Oh, I know that's not your favorite combination. I'll try to send you something else, but I was going to say equally nice, but something nicer.
I'd like to be the first to say thank you. Thank you all for coming today. Thank all of our wonderful panel members here. Thank you, Sky University, for making this possible. Thank you, Heather, for staying up so late, and Andre, for you waking up early. Okay, thank you all. It was wonderful doing this, and I hope we can do this again sometime soon.
Who's next? Me? Thank you, everybody. I can only echo everything Ron said. This has been so fabulous. I love that, this technology has allowed us to do this, right? Would we have done this a year ago? Maybe, maybe not. I love that it's brought us all together from all corners of the world. That's what makes what we do so special, and how we can all support each other that way. Thank you so much, Alexey, for your moderating, and to Skyeng University as well to bring this together. And man, it was so good to see all you guys on here, and all of you in the chat. Oh my gosh, I've had the chat open the whole time, and you're amazing. You've stuck with us over an hour and a half, and you have had the most amazing questions and discussion. If there's any other questions that we didn't get to answer, I know everyone is very happy for you to reach out to us. And you can see my email here on the screen, and you're welcome to just email me, or you can connect with me on LinkedIn, and that's just at heatherhanssen.com. And connect with me there, and we can continue the conversation. I'd love that.
Absolutely. I'll say thank you as well. Thank you, Alexey, for the moderation. Thank you, Ron, for putting us together, because that is also very, very important. I just love these video conferences, these online conferences, as Heather said. I mean, it's brilliant to be so connected, to have so many opportunities. And as we echoed today in the panel discussion, I mean, today, to me, this was a valuable event, because this panel discussion format is different, is more interesting to me than a regular webinar where it's just one person talking. We have all these different perspectives. We are different teachers, different kind of trainers, coaches, educators. It's great to be able to discuss. I'm looking forward to my next workshops, of course, but I hope we do this again, honestly.
Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Alexey, for having us here, for doing such a great job moderating Skyeng University. Ron, Antoine, Heather, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be connected with you. And I have to say thank you to Shirley, I think, Taylor, who mentioned my Yoga Cats poster right there. So I'm happy she noticed. And again, if you want to stay in touch, just Google my name, and you'll probably come across my website, my blog, edcrocks.com. And I really hope this was a useful discussion for people to reflect on online teaching, and hopefully start from the lessons that we had to learn in a very hard way last year. So then you have the lead now. Do your thing, and I'm pretty sure you're going to be a wonderful teacher.
Okay, thank you so much. And as I wrote earlier in the chat, each of our speakers is on Facebook. And if you have not taken the chat yet, the chance yet to go and sign up and subscribe to our speakers, then you are missing on a lot of very interesting and useful information and a lot of great stuff. So thank you very much, everybody. And I cannot but mention that I've had 2 hours, 2 of the best hours for weeks and weeks and weeks, probably even better than New Year and Christmas, frankly speaking. Thank you so much.
Sorry.
I really loved it.
I don't know what that says about your New Year's and Christmas.
Yeah, you can guess.
Hanging out with us.
Well, I'm going to tell you something. The holidays this past year were really wrecked. So, I think that's something good. Yeah.
Yeah, but we've had a professional celebration right now, professional holiday. Thank you so much.
And that shows that online events can work better than face-to-face events, right? Because I felt
online webinars.
Webinars, okay, not workshops.
This was not a workshop.
The debate continues. Join us next time.
All right, and this is the end of our broadcast. And
Bye,
thank you
everybody.
everybody for listening.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, goodbye.